like everybody else in this field, I distinguish between short and long-term interests, and I think that it is important to understand both for understanding learning and how these things can be implemented in classrooms and elsewhere outside of classrooms. Now, there is a difference between how I conceptualize the object of interest, what is of interest in something that you're pursuing. And I think that there's an important difference between the way I conceptualize that and how it appears in the literature. So in the literature, it's generally like this. The object of interest, right? The interest is a relationship between a person and a topic or domain, right? So the object of interest is this relationship, but the relationship is pegged, is targeted at what? A topic or a domain. So that's why we speak of things like I have an interest in education, or I have an interest in piano or in chess playing, or whatever, right? Or that Joey, the student, has an interest in mathematics or doesn't have an interest in mathematics or in science, right? What I think is the object of interest is a set of interrelated activities. So the idea is that when you start, let's take the case of hobbies. You start pursuing a hobby, right? It's model rocketry. And you have a tendency to say, well, I'm interested in model rocketry. But it turns out that empirically, when we look at it, it is in the case that immediately a lot of other parts of your life become entangled into that practice of that model rocketry hobby. So that there is what I call this multidimensional structure to interest. To the motivational structure of interest is multidimensional. So that, interest is really this pattern of long-term pursuit that has many reasons for why you're doing it. So I studied them over several years, 3-4 years. I myself, I've written about lines of practice. What you see is what in my language, the way I've been calling it for many reasons is you immediately develop many preferences in this practice. So you begin to relate to model rocketry in very many different ways that relate to very many different things you do in life, other activities that you engage with. Some of these, for instance, could be related to classrooms, right? Or to the stuff that you do in classrooms. So some of my subjects in model rocketry actually had experiences where in the classroom they could demonstrate some of their knowledge of model rocketry and some of their understanding of physics based on what they had done in model rocketry, which is something that they didn't have opportunities for in that classroom before. So the idea is that these things, these preferences go connecting to one another, linking to one another over the many spaces, over the many settings that the person occupies or travels through, right? And if they have good connections, then they sustain engagement over the long haul, right? The thing for us, and if I understood your question well, the challenge for us is to find a way to cultivate those kinds of continuous interconnections between people, multifaceted, multiple preferences, so that they can exercise these things across very many different spaces. So in museums, in after-school programs, in the classroom, so that then they can develop their preferences and try them out over the long haul, right? And over different spaces where they encounter, for instance, STEM content. So there are these multiple things that go with that interest. So I would say still, yeah, sure, some people get interested in these particular domains, right, and topics, and we should provide them the opportunities to do so. But yet, if we understand the interest to be just about the domain and the topic and miss everything else that goes with it, then we won't be able to design opportunities for them to really develop their science interests.